Hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be going over reader messages in episode. If you are new to my channel, I do have an episode tutorials playlist on my channel, so if you would like to go and catch up from tutorial number 1, which is a bit outdated, I need to update my playlist, but you can go through the videos and see where we are and then come back and follow along. So I actually did record this video last week for you guys, but then my mic messed up and I couldn't edit it, I couldn't upload it. I'm so sorry, and I feel like I really did such a good job explaining in that video, so please excuse me if I'm a bit rusty today. As you can see, it's 10 p.m. in the evening and it's been a busy day for me, so without further ado, let's hop into the video. Okay, so I don't know if you've guys seen in episode stories in the past, when you're busy reading a story, a message will pop up from the top of the screen that will give you certain information. So it doesn't always need to be remember this or remember that in the story. It could be Rosie is happy or Jake is feeling sad, but writers tend to use reader messages for various reasons. I personally like to use it in my stories when I want to remind the reader, or I want them to take note of something that's happening in the scene, so that later on in the story I can tie it back in, just so that they can feel a little bit more interactive with the story. So I like to say remember who to ask for, so that later on in the story, you know, a choice pops up where they have to either input text and they have to have taken note from the reader message. I feel like I'm just scrambling. I'm just gonna get into it. Like I said, I recorded this so nicely and now just all over the show. So I'm just gonna set up a little bit of a scene as usual. Okay, so this is just the scene that I'm going to code for now before I add the reader message, because like I said, I just want to show you guys what it looks like and what it really does. So yeah, I'm going to save and preview. Okay, so that is what the scene looked like without the reader message. So now I'm going to add the reader message. Sorry, I'm just going to hide this because jumping up and down is kind of annoying. So like I said, I personally like to use the reader message to tell the reader to remember something that's happening in the current scene that later on in my story I will bring back. And you know, like the reader must, like, you have to pay attention, otherwise you're going to miss the story, which I think it just keeps them on their toes, it keeps them on edge, it makes them more engaged in the reading, or sorry, in the story. And so after James says, hey, I overheard the president of the studio saying that they're looking for a stunt double for their new show, and Alice says, I did a stunt double class, I'll be perfect for this. Right above where James says apparently a man named Julian will be doing the auditions, I'm going to add a reader message. So the way that you do this is you literally type reader message. That's literally it, but it's going to be as one word, and we're going to do it in camel case. So we'll start with a lowercase r and write reader, capital M, message. Add a space, and after the space you're going to write what you want the message to say. So in this case, since James is saying a man named Julian will be doing the auditions, I'm going to have the reader message say remember his name. I want to keep it, you know, short and simple. I think it's honestly just best, instead of saying remember the man's name or remember who's going to do the auditions. Like, you can say that, but I prefer to just keep it plain and simple. So remember his name. So I'm going to preview this again, and then we'll code another scene where this comes back in, and the reader will have to make a choice to say, or to pick the man's name, and if they pick wrong, you know, something bad happens. Or not bad, but like Alice is left disappointed or whatever the case may be, and so on and so forth. So let's preview it from line 1. Okay, perfect. So I left it there in real time so that you guys can see just how long the reader message actually stays there for. As you can see, it didn't stay there for long, and that's why I like to keep the message kind of short. And also if other things are happening in the scene, for example she's jumping up and down, it can be quite distracting, so then the reader might have missed the message. And in my case, since they need to remember something, it could be a pivotal mistake for them not to be able to read that message long enough, because obviously then whether they remembered his name or not, I'm going to code it to affect the story later on. So in other words, keep it short. And also, if you want the message to stay longer, immediately after the reader message, you can add a pause. So I'll do pause for 2, and it will pause for 2 seconds before everything else happens. So this should stay a little bit longer. Let's see how that looks. My apologies, I didn't mean that it will stay longer. I mean that there will be a pause before everything else happens. Okay, so I'm going to take this pause out again and just show you guys the difference. So I think that it helps, and especially keeping the pause in here, as you probably saw, it just made it so that nothing else was happening. James wasn't speaking yet, Alice wasn't jumping yet, so the reader could only focus on the message. But my advice would be try and keep the message short. Okay, so now I'm gonna code a scene where it ties back in. So after she's jumping and everything's happening, I'm going to add a transition. So I'm gonna transition, fade out, black 1, so it fades out within a second, and then I'm going to add another background just to make it seem like some time has passed. So I'm going to use the int movie theater fancy, I think it's an American spelling, fancy day background, and then I will have a character called security, which I did create, stands screen right, and security faces left. Then Alice enters from left to screen left, and I'll have security say he can be talking apathetic, and he can say, whoa, this area is restricted to talent only. Alice can be talking afraid, you know, she's nervous, she's auditioning, and the security is like not that friendly, and she can say, yes, I am here to audition for the stunt double role. I don't know how roles and stunt doubles actually work, guys, so if you're in the acting space or the drama space, I'm sorry if I'm butchering it, I didn't mean to. And then Alice can also, I'll add a think animation in there, because after this I'm going to add a choice where the reader's going to have to choose between 3 different names to remember this name, right? You see, we're going to make it interesting. We're not just going to have a boring story. So I'll have her say, I am here to see ... And now we're going to add a choice. So you write the word choice, and I'll start adding my options. Just copy and paste this quickly. I do have a tutorial on my channel on choices, so if you watch that video you'll understand what's happening here. So the first choice I'm going to put is obviously names that look or sound or are spelled similar to the name that we told the reader to remember. So the first name I'm going to put is Juilliard. The second name I'm going to put is Jared, and the third one is Jillian. You can obviously add more choices, but this is just for the sake of the tutorial. So what we want to happen now is if the reader chooses a wrong name, so if the reader chooses Juilliard or the reader chooses Jared, she needs to be kicked out of the acting agency or the talent agency, right? And if the reader chooses Julian, which is the correct name, then she proceeds with her audition. So that's what I'm kind of gonna try and code now. So in between these brackets, I'm going to have security say he can be talking angrily, so talk angry, and you can say there is no Juilliard here, get out. And then Alice starts to cry, sniff, sad loop, and she can exit. So it's kind of like she's running out crying. Exits left, and Alice is run, cry, embarrassed loop. Okay, so that's what happens if she sees the name Juilliard, and then I'm going to copy and paste it by Jared. And then I'll just change the name here to Jared. So the same thing happens if the reader chooses Jared, but if the reader chooses Julian, which is the right name, then I will have security talk nicely to her, talk neutral, and say he's in the room on the left, good luck. And then Alice can start dust off neutral loop to make it seem like she's trying to, you know, get herself more presentable, and then she can exit left as well. And you know, if you want to continue coding where she actually meets up with him and she does the audition and so on and so forth, and you can do that. I'm going to run this quickly, but before I do that, I want to tell you guys that if you're going to be doing something like this, right, and you're only going to give the reader one choice to guess the person's name, but the story requires your character to go through with the audition, what you can do is just code something within these choices where the reader got it wrong, to say, let's say for example, as she's running out crying, she bumps into the guy that's supposed to be auditioning her, and he asks her, why are you crying, why are you so upset? And she says, oh, I just got kicked out because I don't remember the name of the person I'm supposed to be auditioning for. And he asks her, what role are you auditioning for? And she says, it's stunt double. And he says, oh, well, I'm the guy, I'm Julian, blah blah blah. Do you understand? So yeah, don't let the choices in this tutorial scare you off. You can always just tie it back in if your story requires it, if that makes sense. Like obviously your story might not look like mine. I just want to really just show you guys how to add the reader message and give you an example of how I use it. And I'm actually using this same concept in a story that I will be releasing soon, so do stay tuned if you guys like romance, drama, episode interactive stories. Then stay tuned. I will let you guys know once that is ready to be released. And if you are currently writing a story, add it in the comments. I would like to do something on my channel where I do story highlights. So if you're a fellow episode writer, I will read your story or shout you out, do something like that. But anyways, without further ado, let's see how this whole thing works. Let's go. Okay, perfect. So that is essentially how you do reader messages in episode interactive. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that my mic has been working this whole time. And if you made it all the way to this point in the video, don't forget to add a heart emoji in the comments and I'll give you guys a shout out in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. Guys, subscribing to the channel is completely free of charge and it will help me get paid in order to continue doing videos like this, because it is quite time consuming. And subscribing to the channel is completely free of charge, and if you guys watch the video to the end, it will help me out so much as well. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.